Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're going to start out laying flat on our back. We're going to have the legs extended, or if for some reason that isn't comfortable, you have lower back sensitivity in that position, we can bend the knees, plant the feet, and allow the knees to fall in towards each other. We're going to allow ourselves to settle here for just a little bit. So for today's class, we're going to be exploring this idea of a gentle connection to our core. We're going to be exploring how the core stabilizes us as we move our limbs, as we twist and do all these other movements. We're going to lean towards the idea of the core reacting to stabilize us, as opposed to the idea of us bracing for the movement. Because in reality, that just doesn't happen. We don't see something falling, have to jump and catch it, and first think, okay, let me brace, and then go. We just react. So that's what we're going to explore today in a very gentle movement sequence. So starting out, we're just laying flat on our back, and we're going to begin by tuning into our breath. So we're not altering the breath in any way, we're just allowing ourselves to notice what the breath is doing at this moment. Where is expanding? Where is contracting? And if we can, maybe directing the breath a little bit down into the belly, down into maybe the pelvis even, noticing any movement down there. Again, just noticing what is present as we move. Then maybe expanding that awareness to other parts of the body, down the limbs, all the way down to the fingertips, all the way down to the toes, up through the neck and into the skull and the face. So we're sensing the body from the inside out. Really grounding ourselves in the present, in our body as it is at this moment. And then we'll begin deepening the breath just a little bit. So as we inhale, we're going to inhale down into the belly, filling up the belly, then filling up into the rib cage, and then finally filling up into the chest. And as we exhale, we're going to exhale from the belly, then emptying the rib cage, then the chest. So as we do this, I want you to think of expanding in all directions. So the rib cage, the belly, the back body is expanding as well. Front, back, side, but also up and down. So there's a length and growth that's happening through the torso as we expand. And then the opposite is happening in all 6 directions as we exhale out. So with this breath, I want you to think of gently increasing the depth of the breath with each cycle. So not necessarily going to your fullest breath right away, but consider this the beginning of our movement, of our warm-up. So we're gently expanding through the torso, through the rib cage, deepening the breath with each cycle of our breath. Eventually maybe coming to our fullest breath. So you really want to slow down the inhale and slow down the exhale. Control. And the breath is in and out through the nose. So take about 3 more of these breaths. And working within a span, that feels full of ease. So not going to a place where we feel like we have to tense up through the shoulders, right? So stopping just before any tension starts to build in other areas of the body. Maybe the tongue starts to grip a little bit, right? So stopping just before that happens. So at the bottom of your next exhale, if you don't have your knees bent already, we're going to bend the knees, plant the feet. And we want the feet to be about hip distance apart, knees about hip distance apart. And for this next exercise, I actually like to bring my hands on my belly. So we're going to do an exercise that targets the deep core stabilizers, but also targets the deep spine stabilizers. So you're going to I like to have one hand on the belly, and sometimes I check in and put one hand on my back, so under me, between the mat and my spine. So what we're going to do is gently tilt the pelvis forward and back. So as we do this, we want to make sure that the big back muscles aren't engaging when we do this. So we want to make sure that the most superficial abdominal muscles, rectus abdominis, is not engaging either. So we just have the deep transversus abdominis engaging and the deep spinal stabilizers engaging for this movement, for this little exercise. So we're tilting the pelvis back and forth. It might take a little bit of undoing to get this exercise targeting the muscles that we want it to target. So again, only moving as far as those more superficial, bigger mover muscles are not engaging. So we want the deeper stabilizing muscles to be the ones doing this movement. And while you're doing it, you're not going to feel like you're doing much. So after we do that, maybe about 10 times, we're going to come to a neutral spine. And then we're going to tilt the pelvis side to side. So think of bringing your right hip bone up towards your rib cage. So laterally tilting side to side, and then over to the other side. So again, checking in with those abdominal muscles, those back muscles, making sure they're not engaging as we tilt the pelvis side to side. We also want to check in with the glutes, making sure that the glutes aren't engaging here, or the hamstrings. All of that is quiet. Again, it's not going to feel like you're doing much. It's probably not going to be a huge movement. But what's most important is that we're not getting those bigger mover muscles. Again, the rectus abdominis, erector spinae in the back. We don't want them engaging here. So again, we go back and forth about 10 times. And then again, we come to a neutral pelvis. Part 3, I like to place my hands on my little hip bones here. What you're going to do is tilt the pelvis. So you want to think of the right hip bone tilting down towards your mat as the left hip bone tilts up towards the ceiling. Again, it's a very small movement. It doesn't have to be huge. And then you rock to the other side. So you're kind of rocking the pelvis side to side. So before we were bringing the hip bone up towards the rib cage. Now we're taking the hip bone down towards the mat, side to side. Again, checking in with those muscles. I like to put my hand on my belly, lower back, just kind of check it out, see what's happening. Again, this one can take a little while to kind of figure out. Can be a little bit strange to figure out how to get that tilt to happen. Just play around with it and see what you can find. Again, going back and forth about 10 times. So from here, coming back to a neutral spine, we're going to play around with a figure 8. So we're going to think of tilting the pelvis away from you, so your pubic bone points down, over to the right, up, and then back to center, and then down, around, over to the left, up, and back to center. So it's kind of a sideways figure 8, or maybe an infinity sign. So going around to the right, up and center, tilting down, over to the left, rocking up, and then coming back to center. And then let's reverse that so the pelvis tilts up, around to the right, pubic bone kind of points down, coming back to center. Again, up, around to the left, pubic bone points down, and back to center. Let's do one more time each side. Rocking up, around to the right, down and center, and up, around to the left, and down and center. Again, that's another one that can take a little while to figure out. So moving on from here, keeping the knees bent, we're going to reach the arms down alongside the body. Now this is going to be super gentle. You're probably not going to feel like you're doing much. But again, just notice what you notice. So from here, we're going to reach the arms overhead. So reaching the arms forward and up, and then overhead. The hands don't have to touch the floor or anything. You're just kind of reaching in line with the ears, or as close to the ears as you can get them, and then back down alongside the body. So just moving back and forth like this, super gentle. You're probably not going to feel like you're doing much, but as the arms start to reach overhead, see if you can notice a very gentle engagement in the low belly. So that would be the transversus abdominis again. And if you want to do just one hand at a time, bringing the other hand to the belly, just to notice, it's going to be a little gentler of an engagement because it's just one hand that you're moving, but you can sometimes still feel the engagement of that deep muscle. Maybe switching hands and then going back to two hands, just kind of playing around with that and seeing what you notice. So this is a very gentle engagement that you're going to find. But if you're someone who has maybe had a baby, there's been some compromise in the abdominal area. So when we have a baby, sometimes the two muscles, the kind of six-pack muscles, the rectus abdominis, the membrane that pulls them together kind of stretches out, right? So sometimes what can happen is that our deeper core stabilizer muscles aren't engaging as well, and we start to kind of balloon out. So this particular movement, if we put one hand on the belly, we should be able to feel that things are kind of hugging in, right? So especially for those of us who have maybe had babies, this exercise, you might feel some ballooning out. Yeah, so you want to stop just before the ballooning out happens, if that's the case. So this is just to kind of feel what's happening down there. So moving on, arms down at your sides, keeping the legs pretty much where they are. Again, you can place the hands on the belly if you want. I like to do that sometimes so I can feel what's happening when I start to move, if ballooning out is happening, so I know when to stop and so on. So we're going to lift one leg at a time off the ground. So right leg gently lifts up and then comes back down. Same with the left leg. Left leg lifts up and comes back down. And you're going to feel, again, how the core is engaging here. If you find that the belly is ballooning out for whatever reason, maybe try planting the feet on the wall so that you can find the proper engagement without the ballooning happening, without having to brace. So once you feel how the core is engaging, now we're going to do one leg, then the other leg. So we're both feet on the mat. Let's lift the right leg and then slowly lift the left leg up. Let's put the left leg back down, right leg down. Other side. Left leg lifts up, right leg up. Right leg down, left leg down. Right leg up, left leg up. Left leg down, right leg down. Last time. Left leg up, right leg up. Right leg down, left leg down. Nice. So you might have noticed how that shifted how the core had to engage, a little more engagement with that. Again, if that feels like when you are lifting the second leg off the mat, the belly has to balloon, you have to grip, you have to hold your breath, any kind of really kind of excess tension more than just engaging, try doing it with the feet against the wall, maybe pulling yourself a little bit away from the wall. And the closer your feet are to the ground is the more engagement you'll need. So just kind of playing around with that. So let's plant the feet on the mat, and we're going to let the knees rock side to side. All the way over to the right, all the way over to the left. So I like to place my feet a little bit wider than my hips for this one. All the way over and all the way over. Just kind of loosening up the front of the hips. So we're going to do one more exercise, and this one takes it a little bit further. So if that last one felt like that was where you're at, you can do that one again. Or if you'd like to take it another step further where we need a little bit more engagement still, then we'll do the next one. So we're going to lift the knees up off the mat. Knees over the hips, shins in line with the knees. I like to point my feet. And we're going to try to keep that right angle at the knee and reach the foot away from us. So kind of moving like a hinge at the hip joint. And I know the hip joint isn't a hinge joint, but bear with me. Like a hinge, and reach the foot down and then back up. So the foot doesn't have to touch the floor. And then we're going to do the left leg. Now we're going to do the left leg down and up, and then again right, down and up. So just kind of switching back and forth like this. And I really like playing around with stopping just before I feel like I have to grip, stopping just before I feel like I have to hold my breath. And again, placing my hands on the belly from time to time just to see what's happening there. Is there any ballooning happening? Is everything kind of hugging in towards a kind of low belly area? And just moving back and forth, right and left. And what I notice oftentimes too is as I kind of warm up this movement, my feet start to kind of go lower. So I don't have to think about it too much as long as I'm paying attention to the sensations in my abdomen. And if there's any pinching or pain in the lower back, again, stopping just before you get to that point. And we don't want to brace the pelvis to say that it has to not move at all, but instead think of moving as far as you can with ease before the pelvis feels like it needs to move, as opposed to bracing the pelvis and then forcing the leg lower. So just a couple more. And when you're done, you can hug the knees into your chest, giving yourself a little hug, gently rocking side to side. And again, let's place the feet on the mat a little wider than hip distance and allow the knees to fall from side to side, all the way over to one side and all the way over to the other. Now we bring the knees into the chest here, and we're going to reach the fingertips straight up to the ceiling. From here, we're going to reach the knees towards the right as the fingertips reach towards the left. So coming into a twisting motion, and then we're going to bring everything back to center, knees to center, fingertips reaching up to the ceiling, and then over to the other side. Knees reach to the left, fingertips reach to the right, and back to center. So just rocking back and forth like this. We want to keep the head neutral, so head is looking straight up to the ceiling. And we want to stop again just before we feel like we need to hold our breath. We want to stop just before we kind of lose that control and fall. So if we notice that we fall one time, we know for next time maybe not to go that far. Keep going as far as we have that control from deep within the center. So you want to notice how the abdominals are responding. We really want to reach the arms in opposition, so we find that counterbalance to the legs. So the arms are reaching as the legs reach as well. From here, we're going to bring everything back to center, and we're going to give ourselves a big stretch. So reaching the arms overhead, reaching the legs long, point or flex the feet. So you're really reaching out through the legs, really reaching out through the fingertips, giving yourself a big old stretch. And then we're going to move into what I like to call the banana stretch. So holding on to the left wrist with the right hand, we're going to reach the torso, kind of wiggle your torso over towards the right edge of your mat. We're going to walk the feet over towards the right edge of your mat as well, so that we're in a really nice kind of side bend banana shape. You're gently pulling that left wrist over so you get a nice lengthening happening along the left side body into the left shoulder, left rib cage. And if you'd like a little more of length, crossing the left ankle over the right and taking a few deep breaths into the left side body. So you want to make sure that that left shoulder, left hip are not lifting up off the mat, so you're really in a true side bend. And breathing for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and gently releasing, coming back to center. Switching sides, so holding on to the right wrist with the left hand, wiggling your torso over towards the left edge of your mat, walking the feet over towards the left edge, crossing the right ankle over the left if you want that extra length, and breathing into the right side body, deep, steady breaths. In and out through the nose for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gently release, bringing everything back to center. Let's hug the knees into the chest. This time we're going to grab on underneath the thighs, and we're going to rock forward and back a few times just to massage your back into your mat. Get extra padding if you need it, so your spine isn't digging into the floor. You're just going to rock forward and back. And when you rock back, you want to make sure not to rock onto the neck. So just stopping at about the shoulder, upper back area. And really tuck yourself in so your forehead is towards your knees. You're in a nice little ball, just kind of rocking forward and back. Nice. And then gently coming back down to the back. And we're going to either do a supported shoulder stand or legs up the wall. So for supported shoulder stand, you're going to get a block or a pillow or two under the hips. And you're going to extend the legs straight up to the sky, softening the feet, softening the knees, just kind of hanging out there for a little bit. Legs up the wall, bringing your mat over towards your wall and sitting sideways to the wall, reaching the legs up and laying down. So the legs are resting on the wall. You can just kind of hang out there, softening the feet, softening the knees, bring the arms alongside the body. And beginning to wind down, so softening through the breath, finding a sense of relaxation through the body as well. And feel free to stay here, or if you'd like to lay flat on your back for Savasana, moving on to laying flat on the back in a comfortable position. I like to think of reaching my right leg towards the right edge of the mat, left leg to the left edge, arms down alongside the body, at least about a foot, palms at least about a foot away from your torso, palms facing up. Really rotating the entire arm open, so from the shoulder, rotating the entire arm open. So you're really nice and open here. And taking a few moments just to allow the body to settle into your mat. And starting from the toes, working your way up towards the skull, telling each muscle, each joint, each tissue, each organ to relax, to let go of anything that's not useful in this moment. But finding a sense of ease through the breaths, finding a sense of ease through the body. At this point, you're no longer responsible for your body weight. The floor is your complete support. You're allowing yourself to surrender with gravity. And really finding a sense of relaxation throughout. All those tiny muscles in the face, completely relaxed. The forehead, the eyebrows, the eye sockets. The jaw, the tongue, the throat, the mouth. And that little space right in the back of the ears, completely relaxed. The entire skull is soft. You're going to stay here for a few moments. These next few moments are for you. I encourage you to stay here for a few more minutes if you can. I'd like to thank you for sharing your practice, sharing your energy today. Have a great rest of your day. One love and namaste.